Welcome to Soccer in 60, presented by the Empire Strykers. Get ready for your weekly look at all the pro soccer teams in Greater Los Angeles. We've got all the news and analysis you need, from LAFC and the LA Galaxy to the Empire Strykers, Angel City FC, and Orange County Soccer Club. Now, buckle up and enjoy Soccer in 60.
Buckle up indeed, and welcome to the fastest paced soccer show in SoCal. This is Soccer in 60, brought to you by SAC Health System. We cover all the news, highlights, and more from LAFC, the Galaxy, Angel City Soccer Club, Orange County Soccer Club, and of course, the Major Arena Soccer League's own Empire Strykers. I believe it's ACFC, and they're already yelling at me down there. Hello and welcome. I'm your host, JR Liebert, affectionately known as The Scarf, and we've got the fearsome foursome on screen here. First and foremost, the Soccer in 60 OG himself, Timmy K. What do you say, Tim Colott?
Hey, Scarf, man. I'm great to be here on this hot summer day, and unlike you, I am not as cool as the other side of the pillow.
The man said hot summer day, and it is March 18th. I give you one half of the Lacuna Galaxiana podcast. Rob, hello, and Rob, welcome back to Soccer in 60.
Hey, guys. Welcome to you guys to the party, because it's a lot of good soccer to talk about today.
So much soccer to talk about, so why not bring on a two-time World Cup representative, one-time Olympian, and now she covers soccer for CBS Sports Central, Cara Lang Romero. Cara, welcome back.
Thank you. Happy to be here, guys.
Listen, for the first time in 2026, all five clubs were in action, and what a week it was. David Martinez calls game in Costa Rica for LAFC, while an old friend unfortunately sinks the Galaxy at home. The County Boys begin their U.S. Open Cup run, while the Strykers take control of their playoff lives amid some interesting times in the Inland Empire. And at BMO Stadium, Angel City takes flight behind a 4-goal victory. We've also got a fantastic interview with Strykers defender Ben Suddeth. By the way, last week's best 11, Ben Suddeth, don't forget. So it's going to be a fun one. Lots going on. So let's check in with our friends over at Omnitrans. In partnership with the Empire Strykers, experience the thrill of game day with Omnitrans. Be in the heart of the action at Toyota Arena and let Omnitrans take care of the ride. Simply download the Transit app to catch your bus and enjoy a stress-free trip to cheer on the Strykers. Don't miss out on the excitement and make every moment count at Toyota Arena. Ride with Omnitrans to the final Empire Strykers home game of the season coming up in a little bit. But now let's talk some Galaxy. We want to mention at the top that due to our recording schedule, we're unable to recap their CONCACAF Champions Cup match against Mount Pleasant in Jamaica. Rob, we were hoping you would be on location in Jamaica for us. I know you were also hoping that might be the case. But Rob, it's a relatively relaxing time with Galaxy up 3-0 on aggregate, but it will be a little bit more of a competitive match from Mount Pleasant, considering they'll at least have their normal best 11.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and not only that, but the Galaxy have traveled about 9 hours. They don't know that much about the team they're playing, and like you said, they'll have their full first team. For those that weren't privy, Mount Pleasant wasn't allowed to travel with 10 of their first team players to the first leg in Los Angeles. And so now the Galaxy do take that 3-0 advantage into the second leg, but they face a team that they largely do not know much about.
Yeah, we'll get back to Mount Pleasant in just a minute, but let's talk about the homecoming of sorts for Dejan Joveljic. Sporting Kansas City coming into Dignity Health Sports Park. And let's not forget, it was a homecoming of his club, his old club, for Eric Tommy, who wound up getting the start there as well. So a couple different storylines on a couple different sides. But Cara, let me ask you first. The Galaxy lost, unfortunately, Dejan Joveljic due to a cup casualty. We have cap casualties in some sports, and in MLS, we have cup casualties that after you win, you can't keep your roster. And he comes back to Dignity Health Sports Park, puts up a goal, striking first for Sporting Kansas City. It's got to kill the Galaxy faithful because they don't want to lose him. But what's it like seeing a player of that caliber have to walk out the door as a cup-winning casualty?
I think it's hard, but I think it's also just the way it goes in this league, and you just have to accept that. Every team goes through it after they win a championship. They cannot come back the next season with the same roster or even anything close to it. It's just that forced parity of the MLS, and it's unfortunate, especially because Dejan Joveljic, I think, still had so much to offer for the Galaxy, and we see it when he comes back. You also see how much respect he still has for the club and the way that he didn't really celebrate when he did score that first goal. But, no doubt he's coming back and he's trying to make his mark every chance he gets. And he wants to show this is what you're missing. And I think he did exactly that.
Yeah, both Cara and Rob, I want to get your take on this too. Gabriel Peck left out of the 18 entirely against Sporting Kansas City. Jakob Glesnes earning one of those DNP CDs. That's a coach's decision where you just get left on the bench. Cara, first for you, was this as much maybe some rest as it was maybe looking ahead to this long travel to Jamaica?
I think it could be that. I think it could also just be the amount of road games that the Galaxy have got coming up ahead of them as well. You're talking about rest for CCC, but also just looking ahead. They were gifted with a very home field advantage heavy schedule to start the season, and Galaxy did not take advantage of it in a league where home field advantage is everything. So I think it could be that. I think it could also be tinkering from Greg Vanney, because, we know he doesn't love to tinker with his system, but he's got more depth in this team this season. So maybe he's just trying to find what combinations work, as well as what we saw with the Hack Yoshida pairing in the center back. I think he's trying to figure out what works, because right now it's not clicking.
Yeah, I want to apologize, because if I could read my notes correctly, it would have said Gabriel Peck was out with a red card. So I've got Angel City yelling at me already. I've got the Galaxy faithful yelling at me already. Timmy K, this one's going to be a fun one. Rob, let me ask you, that center back pairing that Cara just alluded to, the Hack Yoshida combo, which, by the way, sounds pretty tasty on a menu there. I want to try it. What did you think of that center back pairing and how it went for the Galaxy in this one?
Yeah, in that SKC match, you mean? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's not your first choice center back pairing, but with those two in the back, you're never going to have a tremendously bad game. I mean, Hack didn't have a bad game himself, only he gets skinned on the first day on goal. But that's can happen to any defender one-on-one. I mean, Dejon's in transition, he's going full speed, and he's going right at the defender. So, I mean, also, Mitrovic could have done a little bit better. But yeah, no, the defensive pairing is one that I like. But unfortunately, like Cara said, Greg's still not kind of set on what his defensive partnership is, and until he gets that right, until he gets that stability, the Galaxy is going to suffer a little bit.
Yeah, you got to think that center back partnership will eventually just always include Jakob Glesnes as long as he's healthy. Timmy K, let me ask you real quick too. We don't know yet what we're going to get every match from Miro Garces, but we know what we'll get from Joseph Paintsel week in and week out. And unfortunately, he missed this one due to injury. How much of a loss was that for the Galaxy, Timmy?
I think it was pretty big, right? Cara alluded to it, where it's a lot of games. You got a lot of road games coming up. So you're already seeing Paintsel with a little bit of a knock, whether it's bigger than it is or smaller than it is. We don't really know, because that's the way pro sports go. You don't really know what everybody has. But to have him out, I think that really did put a damper on the offensive prowess of the Galaxy in this game especially.
Yeah, he's got that plus attribute of just over the top, take the top off speed. He is incredible. Carl, let me ask you, Rob, maybe if we have time, I want to get your thoughts too. But Novak Mitrovic, 4 matches in, he's got the 1 clean sheet, but his metrics do not look good, and he did not look good in this one. Carl, what are your thoughts on the keeper?
Yeah, he did not look good. He's made 5 saves, but allowed 7 goals. Mitrovic has struggled, to say the least. He hasn't faced enough shots to have allowed as many goals as he has. I have to say he's been dreadful. 4 shots on target last game and 2 goals. The defense hasn't been terrible. Yes, as we said, they're still figuring things out. But for the most part, they're not allowing a ton of shots. It's just the ones that break through are going in. And Greg Vanney did admit in his press conference that Mitrovic should have stopped that second goal. So it's obvious that Vanney is aware that there's an issue. it's a little early to start looking elsewhere, but if after the international break, Mitrovic is still struggling as he is now, I think JT Marcinkowski might be getting the call.
Yeah, Rob, you were hitting the aerial like button there when Kara was talking about that. Let me ask you though, could it, Rob, have something to do with, he's also not their cup goalie, right? So he's getting a little time off and a little time on. It seemed a little disjointed in terms of the amount of play he's got early in the season, or is it just that he hasn't been that good?
I think it's just that he hasn't been that good. He hasn't been that commanding. Oof. I mean, you don't see that big of a drop off between him and JT to go, all right, this is the automatic keeper. Like, he's your automatic number one. I think that ever since last year, there's been kind of like the goalkeeper battle. I don't think he's ever been settled. I mean, towards the end of the year, he was the most settled he's ever been. But look at the Galaxy; they had a dreadful 2025. So he was the keeper of a team that was not a winning team, right? So you come into this year, you expect him to go ahead and command that spot, but the data's just not there. Too many goals allowed.
Yeah. Carl, let me ask you, with the match, Mount Pleasant, it will have already happened if you're listening to this on Fox Sports Radio, but it's 4:00 Thursday, and then Providence Park in Portland on Sunday. Are you expecting a full 11 in Jamaica for the full 90, or have they pretty much got that one put away and they can start looking ahead to Portland in Portland?
I don't think that you can call it put away at this point. I think Mount Pleasant is playing with a chip on their shoulder after having to play a lot of second team players here at Dignity Health. And it's CONCACAF, it's unpredictable. There's a very high chance that the Galaxy will get CONCACAF in Kingston. And so they need to be ready. They need to maybe not play an entire full starting 11, but pretty close to it, in my opinion, especially because the MLS season isn't looking great right now. To advance in CONCACAF Champions Cup could potentially keep Greg Vanney off the chopping block a little longer. So I think that this is crucial for not just Galaxy, but also Greg Vanney's position as head coach.
Absolutely, and we saw what that did for them last season. Speaking of CONCACAF Champions Cup, let's transition just up the freeway to LAFC. After a draw to Alajuelense in Los Angeles halted their winning streak, the black and gold got started on a new one since we last took to the air. Last Saturday, LAFC defeating I'll say a plucky St. Louis City side 2-0 behind a pair of laser beams from Ankara. I know you had to love this. Canadian men's national teamer Matty Chouanière looking good out there from outside the box. LAFC, for the most part, held St. Louis at bay, and it's got to be a tough time in St. Louis City right now with everything going on, unfortunately, with the club. The club moved to a perfect 4-0-0 in MLS play. Carl, let me ask you about the Canadian men's national teamer, Matthew Chouanière. He hadn't gotten a ton of looks, but has he cemented himself in that World Cup roster spot now with those 2 goals?
I think he's definitely, at the very least, on the bubble for the Canadian men's national team. And yeah, I'm sure that the Canadian staff is well aware of his performance at LAFC, well aware that he's got that in his toolkit. He showed it. I don't think a lot of LAFC fans were aware that Chouanière had that in him, but he definitely proved, myself included, a lot of us wrong, because I was definitely one of the people begging for him to be taken out in those first few minutes of the second half, or at halftime, right before he scored that first goal, and he shut all of us up. So, I think he's proving that he's capable of more. I'm not sure that with as high quality as this LAFC midfield is, that he will be a mainstay in the starting lineup by any means, but I definitely think he has something to contribute to that Canadian men's national team.
Yeah, and unfortunately, he was out there because our other Canadian men's national team midfielder, Stefan Eustáquio, was out with injury. So LAFC gets the win, moves to 4-0-0 in Major League Soccer for the season, and then they had to go down to Alajuela, and it was a raucous environment, certainly not helped by a 4th-minute goal allowed by LAFC. It's the stadium known as the Cathedral, Estadio Alejandro Morera Soto, and it is a tough place to play. We talked about Alajuelense being the highest-ranked CONCACAF team outside of U.S., Canada, and Mexico. And, of course, they came in knotted at one. The early goal from Alajuelense. And I've got to ask you about the way that LAFC responded through Nathan Ordaz by way of Mark Delgado. Cara, seeing Nathan step up once again, he hasn't looked great yet this season, but now he's seen David Martinez pass him up on the depth chart. So seeing Nathan Ordaz get this one, that was a big moment for him.
It was a huge moment, and I think it will definitely be slightly overshadowed because David Martinez's goal was the game winner. But Ordaz's goal was also an absolute golazo, a beautiful finish with his left foot. He right place, right time by him, a great layoff by Mark Delgado, who, by the way, I was so happy to see him getting forward on both those goals, Martinez's and Ordaz's, because we've heard him say before, speak very openly, that he thinks he is best used when he's making deep runs, and he wasn't allowed. He was tethered to the back line last season, and now we see him making those deeper runs, and look at the way he's contributing. So kudos to Mark Delgado for that performance in that game. But yes, great to see Nathan Ordaz scoring as well, getting on the score sheet, because all the talk has definitely been about David Martinez. And there's a lot of pressure on both of those two right now because the superstars aren't producing. But how fortunate for LAFC that they've got these two young players who are really coming into their own, and they're getting the job done, while Sun and Buanga are not quite finding their finishing touch.
Yeah, Rob, you've been covering the Galaxy for probably longer than LAFC has been a club. And so what I want to ask you about is LAFC had to go down to Costa Rica, and it was a physically heavy game for them. Alajuelense in their own building. I mean, it was crunching tackle after sometimes late crunching tackle in that one. Watching that type of physicality and knowing what LAFC has coming up next with Cruz Azul and then some other potential matchups, do you think LAFC took a minute to respond to that? Were they not used to the physicality in this one?
No, I think they are. I think they've faced plenty of international competition. They've been down to Central America plenty of times. They've even played Mexican opposition as well, and to know what to expect. It's just a tough team, a tough place to play. Like I said, it's Catedral, and it's for a reason, and so it's more like they just took a moment to get into the game rather than anything else. And once they did, I mean, you saw they ended up going through. But yeah, like I said, I mean, it's just a very difficult team, and they show their pedigree with being able to go ahead and outlast and find a way to win.
And Timmy K, I'm watching the match. It goes into stoppage. They signal 3 minutes, and honestly, LAFC looked dead on the mat. It looked like they were content to have it go into PKs. And then, Timmy K, what we have been talking about on this show for numerous episodes now is the growth in front of our eyes, the rebirth, the reimagination, if you will, of one David Martinez. Cara called it a golazo. I mean, Timmy, that was a lightning bolt off of that young man's foot. 0.03 XG on that one. 3% of the time, it works every time. Timmy K, what did you think about that beautiful goal?
Yeah, and you said it, the last 15, 20 minutes of that game was just miserable to watch. I mean, it was 11 guys behind the ball by Alajuelense. And then you could see it. You could listen to the commentators. They were saying, well, it looks like they're kind of opening up. Looks like the Costa Ricans want to get a goal before this and not go extra time. And you could just tell within those last 90 seconds of that match, LAFC took control. And David Martinez gets the opportunity, takes 4 dribbles, and then before anybody realizes what's going on, he's shot, and the goalkeeper is at full stretch and has no chance to stop that thing. And it was, it was absolutely epic, and you've never heard a crowd go from absolute craziness to dead silence and like 9 LAFC fans jumping up and down. And they put him on TV with like 20 other extra seats around him because they had 40 seats for the LAFC guys. I thought it was amazing just to have him get that goal and just send the home team home unhappy.
Yeah, Cara, I want to ask you, because unfortunately every now and then I delve into the LAFC Twitterverse, and the LAFC Twitterverse is very divided right now. You've got lovers of the black and gold, and then you've got lovers of one Son Heung-min, and it's really interesting. They're undefeated. They've only drawn one match, won all the others, and yet if you go on Twitter, all you read is something's wrong with Sonny. They're not using him in the right way. He's started now as like that behind the top line, right? So he's kind of that midfielder who's setting everything up. I want to get your thoughts on Sonny's play through the first 7 or 8 games of the season.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was able to get on the ball more in this game against Alajuelense. We certainly saw glimpses of him as well as in the last MLS League game. He was more able to run at players, especially in this game against Alajuelense after Ordaz's goal really opened things up. Alajuelense needed a goal, so they're forced to play instead of just defend. So then Son had more space. And I was thinking, okay, now is when we see Son get unlocked. But he still seems off. His touch is off. He doesn't look quite as fast as we know he can be. His set pieces aren't as clean or as dangerous yet. So I want to say yet. I'm not saying like, I think that this is a long-term thing. I'm not worried about him. He's going to get there. He's Son Heung-min. Just imagine how deadly he's going to be, or how deadly this team is going to be with the young guys performing the way they are when both him and Bouanga figure it out. But I think that we talked about Vanny tinkering. I think that the beauty of this LAFC team as well is they've got so much depth that Marc Dos Santos, and he's flexible. We've seen he's very flexible. He is not afraid to switch things up, to put guys in different positions. We saw Timothy Tillman playing higher than I would say he should be. We see Son dropping into that position under, Ordaz. And I would like to see personally Son move up, and maybe have David Martinez playing underneath him. I just think that Martinez could easily fill that role, and maybe that would allow then Timothy Tillman to drop back into a position that he's more comfortable in and I think more effective in. So the nice thing is that Marc Dos Santos has options, and he can figure out a way. And also the fact that they're scoring so many goals from distance now, it's going to force teams to start stepping up. They won't be able to drop as much because they're such a dangerous threat, LAFC, outside the box, as we've seen. Choinière scoring 2 from outside the box, David Martinez scoring 2 from outside the box. Those short corners that they took where both Eustachio and Delgado scored from distance. So I think this now is going to force teams to step up a bit and provide Son with more room to play. And he will be more comfortable, and we'll see him back to his former glory.
All right, and we'll see Cara and Rob in a little bit as well. We'll see you guys in just a minute. We'll get to ACFC news in just a little bit. So, Timmy K, let's take a look down at the Inland Empire. It's an interesting time, to say the least, out there at Toyota Arena. So let's bring on the voice of the Empire Strykers, one Christian Philly Philemon. Philly, welcome back to Soccer in 60, my friend.
What's up, everybody? Good to be back here. Hello to everybody tuning in to Soccer in 60.
Yeah, listen, we're going to get to the real interesting news maybe towards the end. But, Philly, the most important thing is that with 2 matches left in the season, the Empire Strykers have taken control of their playoff lives, their playoff destiny. But it was a tough one at home against the Tacoma Stars. It was almost like opposite day between these 2 games that we're going to talk about. Let's talk about this match against the Stars. It was billed as a good old-fashioned 6-pointer, Philly. And unfortunately, it seems like the second or third time recently, the Strikers ran into a blazing hot keeper in this one, and it was tough. 17 saves on the day.
Yeah, it was a very tough game from another perspectives. I mean, you had the return of Frank Tayu, Uzi Tayu, and then, of course, Clayson DeLima. So, there was that in the air. Frank's first game back to Ontario wearing the kit of a Tacoma Stars member. He previously wore a Milwaukee Wave kit, and that was the last time we saw him in the building. Obviously, Frank holding so many records for the franchise. That was a thing. And, of course, what did he do? He turned around and scored and actually had a goal and assist. And his brother, Uzi, who's not necessarily known for scoring goals, scored a goal. So there were so many things that went against the Strikers. I mean, Tacoma got out of the gates right from the beginning, 2 minutes and change in with Alex Caceres, by the way, another former member of this organization. And then, Empire really never got any closer than 2-1. At that point, it was just another 3 straight goals scored by Tacoma. Zaha, the rookie, would come in and score another one to kind of cut the lead. And then miscommunication led to a terrible turnover, which led to basically the nail in the coffin. And the part that I think sucks even more is obviously these are the 2 teams that are battling it out for that final playoff spot, but it's also losing to a team that hadn't won on the road at all season. So there's so many problems with this game.
Yeah, but you know what? The Strikers hit the mat and got back up in Milwaukee thanks to a little bit of an unorthodox move, Philly. And let's unpack this a little bit here. The news broke before the match that Captain Berto Palmer would have to wear even another hat in this one. Player coach Robert Palmer. I want to let you talk a little bit about Philly, your Philly, a little bit about the opportunity for Robert Palmer and what that means potentially moving forward for Coach Onua Obasi.
So obviously, after the game, everybody was very much disheartened because now the Strikers lose their positioning in the playoff spot. Things are amuck. Things are running amiss. Just a lot of negativity operating in and around the Toyota Arena, for lack of a better term. And as you saw, it was Berto Palmer who would go in as the head coach and defender for the Empire Strykers. And there's a press release that just came out today where the Strikers announced that Captain Robert Palmer has been named interim coach for the remainder of the season, which comes off of the heels of that 6-3 win. It is very important to know that Coach Obasi is still with the organization. There are productive conversations about transitioning him into a new higher level role within the organization. So Onua Obasi is still with the Strikers, but obviously with everything that happened in Milwaukee, you want to ride the wave of momentum, for lack of a better term. So they're going to be heading into Utica with Robert Palmer making the decisions and obviously anchoring the back line and doing the same when the Strikers have their finale on September 29th against St. Louis.
Look, and we mentioned it was almost opposite day between the 2 games. It was Brandon Gomez who was the hot keeper in this one for the Empire Strykers, 15 saves, and it was a 6-3 result for the good guys in this one as they take out Milwaukee. It was called a huge upset on MASL's website, but I'm not sure that was as big of an upset. But let me ask you real quick, Timmy K, Marco Fabian with a goal and 3 assists, the breakout performance that they've been waiting for.
Yeah, seeing him play as well as he did in this game after being scratched a couple of times earlier in the season really puts this into perspective that Marco has really not missed a beat this entire season. It just hasn't had that breakout game, and to get 4 points in this one really put it to the wave and really put the Strikers back in the position that you and Philly talked about earlier, being in the driver's seat for that last playoff spot.
Yeah, Philly, before we check in with National Core and then to your interview with Gunnar and Ben Suddeth, talk about now 2 matches left to play. Strikers have control of their playoff lives. What do they need to do in Utica to continue this onward and upward trajectory at the end of the season?
Well, the month of March is not just reserved for the madness of college basketball. Obviously, there's madness in the Major Arena Soccer League. They're heading to Utica. Utica is a team that's not yet mathematically eliminated, but for the most part on life support, for lack of a better term. They need the road win. They absolutely need the road win, and they need to set themselves up in what's going to be a fiery competition against the St. Louis Ambush. Look, the Ambush are clinched. The Ambush are a tougher team than Utica City. So at this point, the Strikers truly want to control their destiny. They need these 2 wins. They don't need to worry about what anybody else is doing. 6 points is massive. 6 points will propel them where they need to be because now in terms of games in hand, they're both tied with the Stars. So strike hard, strike fast, no mercy, to steal some lines from Johnny Lawrence from the Cobra Kai show.
There you go. You've heard live Philly's voice right now. We're going to say goodbye to Philly, but hello again in a second with his interview with Ben Suddeth and Gunnar Burnt. We're going to check in with our friends over at National Core. National Core is one of the nation's largest non-profit affordable housing developers and a proud sponsor of your MASL team, the Empire Strykers. At National Core, they believe that soccer has the power to transform lives just like they do. They believe in building strong communities on and off the field. And to learn more about National Core and their mission, head on over to nationalcore.org. But right now, we're going to head on over to Gunnar, to Philly, and to Empire Strykers defender Ben Suddeth.
Our guest is a rookie with the Empire Strykers. He's a gritty defender who has seen lots of playing time lately. Born in South Korea, raised in Illinois, he gained valuable indoor experience with the Chicago Mustangs in the MASL2 and went on to represent Chicago State and Northern Illinois University. Lately, having seen consistent minutes at the highest level of the sport, he was heavily involved in the Strykers' massive upset win at Milwaukee that pushed the team above the playoff line. We're so happy to have with us Empire defender Ben Suddeth. Ben, welcome to Soccer in 60.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me.
Let's get right into it, my man. Look, you grew up in Illinois, and it's not a secret that Empire has quite the Chicago connection on the roster. And that got me wondering how the opportunity to play at the highest level with the Strykers came about. Did you know someone on the team that recommended you? Like, how did you appear on the radar of Coach Noah Bassi and managing partner Jeff Burham?
Yeah, so I actually have one of my good friends, Munir Alami, which obviously you guys know of and most of the league knows of. But yeah, we played together against each other in Chicago and kind of reached out to me talking about Empire Strykers, which honestly I didn't really know too much of before, and connected me with Obasi. We had a few talks. He watched me play and stuff like that. And then shortly after I was ready to sign.
Yeah, and amazing. And we're so glad you did. Let's talk about real quick, Illinois and Southern California, two vastly different places, obviously, right?
Yeah.
You've been here now for a few months. You grew up in Illinois, as Philly said. Let me just ask you, first of all, what's it been like being here? And how does Ben Suddeth spend his time when he's not on a soccer field, especially here in California, but then also back home?
Yeah, so I mean, I love it here. Obviously, I love hot weather, and in Chicago, you get a good amount of it, but you also get, for the majority, cold, rainy, snow. I mean, all of the above in 1 week sometimes, right? So I love the weather here, and obviously adjusting to the team has been really nice. I love all the guys on the team, and yeah, outside of the field, well, I like to go to the gym. I know it's similar to the field, but I'm very into that, like sports performance. I'm also studying a bit, even though I did graduate from NIU. So I'm taking some science classes. So I study a few hours of the day. But pretty simple. I mean, I like to go for walks. There's a lot of Korean food out here, so I like to try new food spots. And but I mean, other than that, just enjoy and relax.
Yeah, nice. And yeah, LA probably one of the best places in the world if you're looking for international foods to different cuisines to try. You spent basically your entire life in Illinois, right? You ever since being born, as we said in the intro, in South Korea, and then being adopted into an American family. I told you before the interview that I actually have an adopted brother whose his birth mother is from Eastern Europe. So it's a little bit of a similar situation. It's something that my brother thinks about a lot. So I was wondering, do you know anything about the circumstances around your adoption? And then also have you thought about maybe connecting with that part of your history, or maybe with biological relatives going to South Korea? Is that something that you've thought about?
Yeah, I would definitely say simple answer, yes. Obviously, it's a much more like tricky situation. But yeah, I'd say as I get older, I definitely, it's something that crosses my mind more often. I think for me, it's something that when I was younger, I would think about, but I wasn't maybe educated enough to really know how to go about it. And I mean, I'm still not, right? It's like I said, a tricky situation, but I think I'm learning more about like what I want. And obviously, kind of touched in, I visited Korea this past summer, which was really cool. Just seeing obviously where you're from, right? It's like, it's completely different, the culture. But yeah, I would say in the future, I definitely want to look into it more and try to go about it in obviously a way of like respecting my family that like took me in, and they are my family, right? But I think I would definitely like to maybe try to find like my biological parents and look more deep into like my family history in South Korea.
Yeah, amazing. Hopefully that works out for you. Definitely a lot of things to consider there. I know from talking to my brother, but now that we are talking about your family and your backstory a lot, talk to us maybe a bit more about life growing up. We've said it 3 or 4 times now in Illinois. What was it like as a kid and as a teenager? Do you have siblings? Did you hang out with your siblings? Did you find ways to get in trouble, or were you constantly busy just playing soccer? What was life like growing up?
Yeah, I'd say some of the things you mentioned, like almost all the above, right? I have two twin sisters. They're both married now. So there's a little bit of an age gap there, me being the youngest. But yeah, I would say for the majority of my childhood, I was running around playing. I tried a few other sports before soccer, but none of them stuck, like hockey and stuff. Like, I don't know, it's tough. It's a tough sport, but I couldn't even stay on the ice. But yeah, I mean, I tried soccer. It was actually one of my neighbors that got me into it, and we would play every day after school, just outside all night till the sun went down. And I started taking it more seriously. Obviously, like progressing to club soccer and stuff like that. And like I said, that was most of my childhood after that, because club soccer it gets very serious very quick, right? You travel a lot, you're with your teammates most of the time, which I loved, like especially growing up, like the teams I were on, we were mostly just like families. We would go eat out together, spend a lot of time off the field too, which was really nice. So yeah.
And transitioning back, onto the field, your MASL star has really been on the rise. Like, after playing in under 30% of the first 14 games, you've appeared in over 60% of the last 8, including playing back-to-back in the most recent matchups. Like, what do you think has led to that growth? You previously played in M2, as we mentioned, with the Mustangs, but are there any specific things that you feel that you've gotten better at since stepping up to the MASL level?
Yeah, I think just when you do something, and when you're changing and starting something new, it's always a transition, and sometimes it takes longer, but I'm confident that you always grow into it. And I think this season has kind of shown that, right? Like you said, 30% of the games, the first couple, I didn't really play, and I think more towards now the back end of the season, I've grown into learning what my role is and how I can help the team. And at the end of the day, like, that's what's in my head, right? Like, I'm not thinking of the numbers, how many games I'm playing, just doing my job to the best possible way, and I'm being there for when my team needs it.
And well, let's look specifically at the last 2 games. So we've mentioned that you played in both of them. First, you had a really disappointing home loss to Tacoma, but then you guys go to Milwaukee and take care of the Wave in a really convincing manner. Were there any keys you guys identified and then improved on from the first game to the second game? Like, what allowed you to be so strong at Panther Arena from start to finish?
Yeah, I think the first thing that comes to mind is just obviously our mindset, right? We know losing at home always hurts, and it's a tough one on the road against a good team in Milwaukee. So I think the main thing was coming together as a team and knowing, like, hey guys, like, we have to get this win here and come out with 3 points going home, and especially late in this season, looking at the leaderboards, right? Like, everybody's looking at it because it's a small number of margins, and we know obviously there's some key players on Milwaukee, so we talked about that, but the focus has always been just more on us, like our game plan going into it, things players we obviously want to shut down, but mostly just stuff we want to do, and I think cleaning up some of the mistakes like that we had in Tacoma and previous games before. But indoor is a fast-paced game, and just trying to limit the amount of stakes that we can.
Mm-hmm. Before I look ahead with you, I gotta very quickly comment on something you said. You said you have twin sisters, which you just got even more interesting as a person. We got to talk more. And I'm so impressed with your parents now taking in 3 kids. That's amazing. But let's look ahead real quick to the you guys have a huge game coming up at Utica, right? UCFC does sit in last place, but they just handed a devastating blow to your direct competitor for that final playoff spot, the Tacoma Stars. If you guys get a result at Tacoma, it could be game over for the Stars, depending on what they do against St. Louis. What's the team's mindset heading into this upcoming game at Utica, and what do you feel will be important in that matchup?
Yeah, so I feel like every game on the road is tough, right? The travel and everything between that, and especially now where teams are hungry for points, and like you said, especially us and Tacoma, both teams know it. We're fighting for that spot into playoffs. So yeah, I feel like there's definitely the pressure there, but it's it's exciting. It's what we want, right? We want to take that spot and make playoffs, and the opportunity's in our hands. So I would say the mindset is just we're excited to go out there and be able to play again and have this in our hands, the responsibility.
All right, Ben, final question for you. It's been a bit of an up and down season for the Strykers, but you guys are actually 9-6 in your last 15. Coming off such comprehensive performance against one of the top teams in the MASL, what's your sense of the confidence level among the guys? Do you think there's a chance you might peak? You might be peaking at exactly the right time.
Yeah, I'd say the confidence is high, and I think among ourselves and within the players, and where the unity is there, right? Which is exactly what we need at this time in the season. So yeah, I would definitely say that we're looking to peak and obviously go on this run, and just all eyes are focused on one game at a time, right? Like it's obviously we have 2 games left, but it's like if we start thinking ahead, it's a tough mindset to put ourselves in. So I think we're focused on this upcoming game and going out there and trying to get 3 points and bring it home.
Fingers crossed for y'all. I haven't called a home playoff game in quite some time, so I'm kind of hoping to do so this season around. But good luck in the travels to Utica. I know the travels from Milwaukee were a little on the cumbersome side, so enjoy the rest of that California sunshine. Good luck at Utica, and we'll see you back at the arena on the 29th.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.
All right, there we go. Ben Suddeth, defender, got to talk an awful lot about the Empire Strykers and getting ready for the playoffs, getting ready for the end of the season. So, Timmy K, let's bring Cara back on. Cara Lang Romero, excuse me. And welcome back, Cara. Angel City FC opened their 2026 season, the first full season under head coach Alex Strauss. Heightened optimism amongst questions about their offense. Cara, I think it's safe to say after a 4-0 victory against the Chicago Stars, the optimism was well placed and some of the questions were at least partially answered.
A lot of questions were answered. Angel City completely dominated Chicago in their first match of 2026. 18 shots to Chicago's 6, 10 corners to their 3, one of which they scored off of Evelyn Shore's goal for the second goal. This team's fun to watch, bottom line. They look dangerous in the final third. They looked very organized defensively, dominant in the midfield. Chicago's not very good, so perhaps some of it was that they made Angel City look good in moments, but all to say, the finishing was excellent. The mentality was aggressive, very front-footed. Angel City's put the league on notice.
And I have to ask you, if anybody would have asked me who I thought the leading scorer might have been last episode, I would have said the 19-year-old Kennedy Fuller. I think she is as special as it gets. She's incredible. But I got to ask you, Carl, we were talking a little bit about Alyssa Nair and what this might mean for her moving forward. And she did not look good in this one. Or was that Angel City's pressure finally getting to them and breaking through at the end?
I think it was both. Alyssa Nair did not look good. I think that her team saw the signs, I think, last season, and that is why they found a backup keeper who can also very well start in this league. So I think we are seeing her being phased out potentially throughout this season. I think Ari Borges's goal, particularly where Alyssa Nair played that hospital ball to her center back, and Ari Borges just stepped in with that high pressure, the soul roll with the bottom of her foot as her first touch, and she punished Nair for that massive mistake. I think that was a big sign of maybe what's to come throughout the season, especially if teams are going to press high like that. And it's unfortunate because she's a legend. So you hope that she still has a strong season if this is her last, but we'll have to see. But at the end of the day, it was more, for me, Angel City's execution. It was just fantastic.
And Timmy, Cara talked about the beautiful soccer that they played. I don't know that it gets more beautiful than that final goal of the night. Sarah Gordon, that first touch by Sven Jan's daughter. I mean, Miara News putting it away. Timmy, talk about that fourth and final goal, how beautiful that run of play was. Just everything came together perfectly for Angel City on that one.
Yeah, and this is what we were, and what we here on the show and what the Angel City fans were looking for when Coach Strauss came in last year. And now that he had a full preseason, he's got a bunch of the games, and this first one in, this is what everybody in the stands are looking for, what the entire Angel City faithful are looking for. And to see something like that come this quickly, it was the fourth goal, but to see it in the very first game of the season, this is really what's going to prove, as Cara mentioned a minute ago, this is really what's going to prove that Alex Strauss was the right head coach, and it was worth waiting for.
Yeah, I mean, look, it was beautiful football all the way around. Cara, it could have been 5 late, and I think Alex Strauss will at least be a little disappointed in the way that Angel City closed it out, left a couple of opportunities there on the table. So it's a good thing, right, that Strauss has something to talk about for the next couple of practices as they get ready for Bay FC next week?
Absolutely. I think so. They've got something to work on for sure. And, I got a glimpse of Strauss's pregame talk with his team. And if that's any indication of how he addresses the team, he is not going to mince words about those final minutes. But I was really happy to see how commanding he was in that locker room. If anybody here gets a chance, look up that video. Angel City posted it of his pregame pep talk. He said they talked about it all winter: high performance mindset, intention, intensity, intent. This is what he was telling his team before the match, and they went out there and they did exactly that. He said, we are not going to be average. And they certainly weren't on the day. This team isn't just talented. We've seen talent come through Angel City, but this team, after watching them in that first match, they've got killer instinct and they've got a winning mentality. And I think that's the biggest difference this year.
Yeah, congrats to former Soccer in 60 interview subject Taylor Suarez, making her NWSL debut for Angel City in the 82nd minute. And I think what might be the most inspirational moment of the entire season and all of NWSL, of course, Savvy King coming on just after the hour mark to replace new acquisition Emily Sams. It's hard to believe it was only 10 months ago that she unfortunately had that cardiac event. Saturday, March 21st, PayPal Park, Bay FC, a club that has given Angel City fits. Unfortunately, we got to ask about 2 players. First, Timmy, out for this one with a little bit of a knee issue. June Endo, who of course had her ACL repaired, and a lot of optimism coming into the season, but unfortunately, June Endo's just not ready yet.
Yeah, and there's a lot of, I would guess it's a lot of pressure on her and the team to have her back on the pitch, right? Because she was a very big signing when she first came over. She didn't play for an entire season with that season-ending injury. And to have a little knock on the knee again, you want her as healthy as possible. And it's okay to keep her on the sideline, especially with, Savvy King playing as well as she did. But you got to make sure that June Endo is healthy 100% before you put her back out there.
Yeah, and she said there's just still a significant imbalance between her left and right side. So her body telling her something. Mm-hmm. But Cara, unfortunately, Hana Sujita is not going to play for the rest of the season. The Japanese national team star, massive acquisition at the end of the year last year, torn ACL. This is a huge blow for Angel City.
It's a massive loss. I was so excited to see her get in, and she's so technical, so tidy with the ball at her feet. She can operate in tight spaces. She can next play between the lines. You never want to see someone go down with an ACL, but Angel City did add Mayada Noose and Ari Borges to the midfield. So I think they'll be okay depth-wise in the midfield. And the center of the pitch, I don't think is an area that's going to be a problem for Angel City. But nonetheless, it's never good to see a player go down, especially with an injury like that.
Yeah, you really feel for her. It happened before this match. Didn't happen in this one, but they did just release the information. We are going to say bye to Cara Langermel. Thank you once again for being here on Soccer in 60.
Thanks,
and the County Boys, Timmy K, kicking it off down the road in Orange County for their U.S. Open Cup lives. This is a fun one. They did it, by the way, with a new defender. We didn't talk about this last episode, but 6'3", 24-year-old Garrison Tubbs. I mean, that sounds like a guy you want patrolling your back line, formerly of the DC United, formerly of the Atlanta United program as well. I mean, a defender like that, bringing in some top-level experience to the back line, that's a big get for Orange County Soccer Club as they kick off their Open Cup run.
Yeah, to get him on loan right now is a big deal for the club. You've had some of the guys leaving the offseason, and you could see with some of the late signings right towards just with the day or two before the first match. The biggest thing was that he's a big dude. You mentioned at 6'3", and he's like a $185. So he's not 6'3" and 150 pounds like some of these dudes are. The guy is built, and he's going to be very, very good for the back line of the County boys. And, and like you mentioned, the kicking off the U.S. Open Cup tonight, as we just finished, the game just finished as we're recording, a big win against Laguna United at 3-0. It was a big win tonight for the County boys.
Yeah, we'll get to that 3-0 result. I just do want to talk about, you mentioned on the back line some talent. It doesn't get much more talented than 16-year-old Tyson Espy. Yeah, and Espy called into yet another U.S. Youth National Team U17 camp. Now he gets to go to Paraguay. I mean, this kid getting to go all over the place. That is the life if you are a professional soccer player. March 24th to the 29th, the only USL championship player called in. This comes off him making his first start for Orange County in their opener against Las Vegas Lights. So yet another time that Tyson Espy now called into U.S. Youth National Team camp. I want to ask you about the Phoenix Rising result before we get to the U.S. Open Cup result. 1-1, it's tough to tell, right? Phoenix has been a very good team last year, not so great. Orange County, you always want to use Phoenix Rising as a measuring stick. What were your takeaways from that 1-1 draw?
I think the biggest thing is that the boys are still coming together. You've got several new guys on the team, but you still have some of the core, right? You've got 7 or 8 core guys. And when you put 7 or 8 core guys and you still have 3 or 4 guys that are coming in, right? You got a new goalkeeper that's getting most of the starts. You've got Mohamedou Wars playing and Zubak's playing, but you still got another 2-3 guys, and you still got a mesh. What I was most impressed about is that they never gave up, and you see the equalizer late in stoppage time by guest of the show, Nico Ben Alcazar. And you could just, again, you take the breath out of the air of the stadium, and it was a hot one in Phoenix over the weekend. And you just look at that and you think, okay, if they're going to play until the 93rd minute and still get that equalizer, the County boys and coach has got these guys playing well already this season.
Yeah, and again, to get back up off the mat after it being a tough almost 90 minutes for them in that one, especially in that heat in Phoenix. Look, a lot of these USL championship clubs, they would love to win a USL championship cup, but I think if you really ask them which trophy might be the most fun to play for, it would be the U.S. Open Cup. And Orange County Soccer Club kicking off their U.S. Open Cup run. You mentioned Laguna United and NPSL, I believe, squad, or a UPSL squad, excuse me, that they're actually also going to be playing at MLS Next Pro. They got all kinds of things going on there in Laguna United. What they didn't have tonight was their offense, because it was a fantastic performance by Orange County in this one. You mentioned the score 3-0. Stephen Kelly, Ryan Dogman, and Chris Hagart, by the way, wearing the number 10 shirt now, Timmy K.
Yeah, it's a big deal for these guys to get out there, and Hagart comes through, gets that third goal right towards the end. And this was a big win. I mean, Laguna United is a very good club. They are a division below, a couple of division below, but they are a great squad. And that whole United program down there in Laguna is incredible. If you look some of the players that have come out of that, you're seeing a lot of D1, D2 players come out. You're seeing some of these guys playing pro, obviously. And the club is going to be very, very good for a long time. So this was a very good measuring stick for both clubs, right? You knew that Orange County was going to be well favored, but to see Laguna United come out and play well against a team that obviously was a heavy favorite against them.
Yeah, look, they held their own as best they could, but let's not sell the County boys short. 25-2 out shooting Laguna United, 72% of the possession, allowing 0 shots on target. You and I could have probably played keeper tonight and kept a clean sheet against Laguna United. And I don't mean to disparage Laguna United, but this was just a dominating effort. We just hope that they're all okay after they absorbed 23 fouls, did Orange County in this one. So That being said, County Boys off to a good start in the U.S. Open Cup, And while it's been a great start here on Soccer in 60, let's get to the finale, the fun part, the best 11 soccer players for their individual performances in individual matches over the last week. You see it there on your screen. Goalkeeper Brandon Gomez for the Empire Strykers against Milwaukee. Defenders Alan Perez for Empire against Milwaukee. Evelyn Shores, Angel City against Chicago. Mohamedou War, Orange County Soccer Club against Laguna. And Ryan Dogman also for that same match. In the midfield, Matty Chouanier and Mark Delgado. Chouanier for his performance against St. Louis. Delgado against Alajuelense. Kennedy Fuller for Angel City against Chicago, as well as Ari Borges, and Marco Royce for Galaxy against Kansas City. Marco Fabian playing up top for the Empire Strykers, 3 for Angel City, 3 for the Empire Strykers, 2 each for the County Boys and LAFC, and Marco Royce there for the Galaxy. Who sticks out for you in this one, Timmy K?
Well, I like the fact that Mohamedou War was playing defense on this week's edition of the Best 11, but I think the one, I always go back to this one, but I'm not going to go my famous Marky Delgado poll. I'm going to go Kennedy Fuller on this one. You and I were talking about her. Cara mentioned her. You had mentioned that she was going to be the leading scorer had somebody asked you, but Kennedy Fuller, I think, really stands out on this one. And we'll give Gunnar a little bit more heat afterwards by putting him at defense, but it's all good, Gunnar. Don't worry about it, buddy.
Listen, to have a weapon like that, being able to come from your back line and then come all the way to the front, I'll take that all day long. Look, we've seen it at times from several of these clubs. I want to take a quick look at Brandon Gomez. Brandon Gomez, was fantastic for the Empire Strykers against Milwaukee, and it was, let's be honest, after a stinker against the Tacoma Stars, Brandon Gomez was very, very good. 15 saves, 83% save percentage, and really a bounce-back game for him. So I was happy to see him there. And look, we mentioned Alan Perez. You want to talk about defenders who can score. Alan Perez with a hattie against the Milwaukee Wave as well. Looking good there. And then real quick, Timmy, you talked about this earlier. We'll close on this one here. Marco Fabian having a vintage performance at the perfect time for the Empire Strykers.
Yeah, this was a brilliant one. And, we hate to say a breakout performance, in the 22nd game of the season. But really, this is the best he's played all year long. He's had some good games previously, but when the Strykers needed it most, they got the best out of their, clearly in this game was their best player, Scarf.
Yeah, absolutely. I know you didn't want to talk about him, but over 100 touches in the match for Mark Delgado, and he was absolutely fantastic down in Costa Rica against Alajuelense as well. I want to say a big thank you to everybody who tunes in to Soccer in 60 every single week. Don't forget, subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Check us out everywhere you can. Thank you so much for joining us on another fantastic episode of Soccer in 60, brought to you by SAC Health Systems. He's Timmy K. I'm JR Liebert, the Scarf. We'll see you all next